since you told me that line, I say it all the time.
I told you that I met DMX, right? And I came up to him and I said, "Can I take
Yeah, I
this?"
saw the picture that you took with him.
Yeah, I was very rude and I came up to him and I said, "Can I take a selfie with you?" And he said, "You know what he said to me?"
He asked you a question and you answered like a G, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll take a picture with you."
I don't know if he said "f you n word" or he said "f you motherfucker," but I like bowed my head and I said, "Oh, I'm very sorry. That was really rude of me. My name is John. What is your name?" And he said, "Earl."
That's his real name?
Yeah.
I don't remember that part of the story.
Yeah, that's how it happened. Cause like,
As an A10 Thunderbolt flies over Doc's house. I love that sound.
Dude, when you see a fighter jet fly over, I was like kind of laughing because you know how they do the air and water show in all these major cities, and like when you see an F-35 like thunderblast over your head and you go,
Oh,
you're like, it's almost like you realize how insignificant you are in terms of even like mechanical innovation, but really the fun that that pilot gets to have is got to be the coolest thing.
have you seen the new F-57? Or is it 57? I think it's 57. F-57.
Mm-mm.
The new 6th gen that we just released.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, we've got a new 6th gen fighter that like gets rid of the 22 and the 35.
I saw the British like promoted this guy his name is Lord.
Oh, we never get rid of the A10 though. We always needed the A10 on deck.
Yeah.
That's like the pawn of the battlefield in the modern chess.
Isn't it just like a fucking like it's like a mosquito of death where it just like pops in, pops out. Oh man.
That's what it sounds like, dude. Like you'll hear a blast from the gun, and then you'll hear it hit the ground, and you're like, man, I hope I wasn't underneath that motherfucker. Like
Yeah.
straight up.
Fire from
Nobody
above.
wants to. Death from above for sure.
Isn't it kind of crazy how like people are resisting the situation, um, verbally, but it's so futile because everything was already settled in like 1947. You know. I mean, the winners are still the winners now.
No, it was resolved at the end of the First World War. It wasn't resolved at the second one. The thing is like you had the Ottoman Empire with Germany, and that was like what came against like Europe in World War I. And then like Germany and like what the First Reich, got their ass kicked. Ottoman Empire got their ass kicked, and then Britain became the arbiter of what the county lines were for the Middle East. And they're saying, oh, yep, that's what Iraq is, and oh, yep, that's what fucking Saudi Arabia is, and oh, yep.
What do you think of? Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a quick question. What do you think about this theory that there's East and West, and then there's like this central corridor, which is like receiving all the friction?
I'm not referring to what territory. What territory?
Like a column, meaning that like Russia, Iran, like there's essentially like an alignment in the world where all the energy metaphysically is just like collecting into war. It's every battlefront essentially, where all of the metaphysics, all the people's work going into these weapons are being deployed in these specific battle zones, constantly shifting and changing.
Oh, dude, I would have loved to have this conversation with you 2 nights ago, but you wouldn't let me in the room. But because it was like right when like the Ukrainian drone attacks happened, and you started a room like about Russia nukes. You put nukes in the title.
Mm.
And then, like, I tried to get in, Because I would have loved to have had that conversation with you about all of that. Because that definitely falls in line with what that room was definitely about.
Well, basically, I mean, I don't really, you know, want to critique anything or like complain about anything, but what I'm trying to say is that that middle pillar, even if it's happening on the face of the planet, is still balance and peace. And it's essentially a meditation. I mean, war is like, it's amazing because you can make such rash decisions and then die from your rash decisions in war that, I'm looking at a picture of a bunch of men draped in, white cloths praying. So there is like this Dune aspect to intelligence, like the whole network, meaning that like every country is essentially a fascist country with a network of individuals who support the fascist government. Um,
Dude, you know me. I've always told you my favorite movie was Frank Herbert's Dune.
but what I'm just pointing out is that analyzing and discussing the communication network is always most likely the most important conversation you can have, which is trying to upgrade the quality of the fiber with higher intelligence. So,
Well, I mean,
that's
why
why I
why do you
say
think I held on to your dumb ass for this long?
I know because I upgraded you with Marcus Aurelius. That's why you're still around. If I didn't upgrade you, you would have been like, "Yo, I mean,
Yeah,
that
fuck
wasn't a
this
good
nigger.
upgrade. That wasn't a good." It's serious. It's true. People want the upgraded version. So I think
Yeah, I got you. Dude, 100%.
yeah, that's what
Like,
people are attracted to. They are attracted to upgrades.
yeah, but a lot of what you do is so automated, and I don't like being talked to in some kind of like diatribe that's automated at me. Like, like I'm stuck in some kind of like simulation. I really, like when you put on books and like, I like when you do the Reboyline Shaloyline song because I've only heard that like 3 times in my life, and all 3 were from you. But I know what it means because you explained it to me, and yeah, you upgraded me. Um,
There's something else about that story. What I found kind of interesting is like when the two rabbis are having the conversation, and he says, "Well, I have a student who can say Rabbana Shalom 1,000 times." There's another like sentence after that, like there was something else. I heard it the other day, but I recorded that from a book called The Prayers of Rabbi Nachman. So all this stuff is essentially, it's kind of easy to forget, but because the environment throws so much information at you, that if you can just get back to that core equilibrium and balance place, it's the best place to be because you can
when
resolve all conflicts from that
Dude,
place.
dude, honestly, the reason I live way the fuck away from a lot of fucking people and out in the middle of fucking nowhere kind of
Mm-hmm.
is because I have agoraphobia. I don't like being around people because, like, I hear their conversations and it freaks me out. And, you know, like, when you taught me that mantra, like, I'm the master of my universe, like, I do my shopping, but I'll be saying that myself while I'm like walking through the aisles pushing a shopping cart because I'm hearing other people and I'm like, you motherfuckers are stupid. Like I want to hurt them. Like,
Well, look at
and,
the
and I
word. Look
and
at
I
the
use
word
that
though. Look at the 3 words.
like a motto.
Ribono shel olam. Ribono is like a ribbon. Like you put a ribbon on a gift, but also it's like the rib and the bone. And then the shell is she, there's the first 3, and then it's like a shell from the ocean. But there's also hell that's like in the center, and then O, and then a lamb, or Ola. And so, but that's like an ohm basically. So you don't need to do
Well,
Rabbano Shalom.
yeah, but I don't even say it correctly because I say ra boy sh loin noin.
No, it's
Like,
Rabbano Shaloiloim.
yeah, well, tomato.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
I'm a South Georgia non-Jew.
So Om is O, Ah, and then the silence. The fourth part is silence. So it's Om, and then you be the silence. Remember, that's the fourth part. That's to me the interesting thing is that when they explain it, they don't just say it's three parts. They say it's actually four parts. The fourth part is that silence or nothingness. And
Man,
so,
that's my last blunt wrap. Damn
yeah,
it.
you can't put your finger through a moving fan, and you can't put your finger through a moving floor because the floor is moving faster than the fan. So that's the basis of what you could call friction stuff. But there's something about the nothing that I think most people fail to understand is that the space in the jar um, is nothing, but it's not nothing. So something comes from nothing, and it's like a play or a game to basically do almost like 3D modeling in the real world. That's my theory. And I think communication is the way to do it because technically, what we're trying to all do is to like, we're all kind of organizing each other in a way. And it's the network, it's the communication network that you're a part of. So that's what's happening. I mean, a lot of
Dude,
people's
yeah, and
power
dude,
comes from that
I'm the
communication
most ignorant South Georgia boy you could probably meet, but at the same time, I try really hard to understand the points and variances of the nuances to which you allude to.
it's just social. It's a social network, but the social network is dead basically. It's like a spam network, um, and everybody who's anybody is essentially locked away in their castle. You can't get to them. um, but anyways, there is essentially going within is the same thing as going outside. So if it's infinite on the exterior, it's probably infinite on the interior, or you get to that point where it can't be reduced anymore, and then the opposite of that
Well,
can go forever.
there has to be a yin to the yang. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, but that's you. You are the Tao or the Yin Yang, which is the coolest thing to be aware of. It is a little bit like, um, essentially, you're like, well, I am in control of my destiny. That's kind of like the part where you're like, wow,
And
this is exciting.
I'm also the destruction of that destiny.
Exactly. You are the creator and also the destroyer.
Yeah, I feel like Shiva in my head.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a
I
nice thing to
mean,
know. I think it helps people prioritize their priorities.
I mean, like the idea of like the phoenix, like the like being resurrected from your own death and ashes, like and Shiva being like the goddess of you know like destruction and rebirth,
Mhm.
which is it mimics a lot of what the phoenix is about, and like psychology or the philosophy of it. Um, yeah, but the idea that to know that it's like having a tongue that's a double-edged sword. You can either cut people with it or you can cut yourself. That's the only double-edged sword that I really talk about.
Well, see, I have to prioritize my priorities, which is primarily communication. So I'm going to finish this 4 minute Rabboni Shalom and say Rabboni Shalom again and again
Well,
until I get to that
I'm
wordless
gonna dip
state.
out, and I'm gonna wish you peace, love, health, and wealth, and reborn line shalom.
Wow. Never have I heard truer words.